Hey there, it's Martha, and if you're new, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. So this is a monthly detour. They haven't been every month. It all just depends on if I have enough books that I've read in a month to do it as a separate video. As much as I love wax and good smelly things, I also love reading. Reading is another passion of mine that I've had for a long, long time. And last year, I just didn't read as much. My life was a little imbalanced, and this year I really sought to make more time for reading, more time for other things that I enjoy, not just wax and videos and all of that. So I read 5 books this month. I have 2 of them kind of hardcover here, and the other 3 I listened to an audiobook. So I want to share with you the 5 books I read. This was a good month. Last month I had like a really, really good one. So if you didn't watch last month's video, I had several, but there's one that really stood out, and that is The Mountain King. I'm still thinking like that was a good book. I need to read more from that author. This month was another good book. I went back to thrillers, I think. Yeah, there was no romance. No romance in these 5 books. These were all kind of mystery thrillers, books with a little twist. So if you're interested in hearing what I was going to say what I warmed. If you're interested in hearing what I read this month, then stick around. All right. It's hard not to kind of go on autopilot and think of like things you normally say when you're making a wax video. But I read 5 books, and I have my notes here. If I'm looking at my notes because I'm old, and reading retention was never like the strongest thing. So if a book sticks out in my mind, like The Mountain King from last month, then for me that gets like a little extra stars. But I did read some really good books this month. So I'm going to start off with the first one that I read, and it is Kill for Me, Kill for You. This is from Steve Cavanagh, and I am also trying to read through my book of the month. I probably easily have 15 books from Book of the Month that I have not read. But these 2 were ones that were on my list to read this year. Both of these were released this year, so they're on the newer side of my stack, but it was just one that I really wanted to read. Steve Cavanagh this is my 2nd book that I've read from him, but he is one that I really loved his book 13. It is part of a series, but I feel like you can read 13 on its own without kind of knowing much about the detective. You get enough backstory to kind of know what's going on. So for me, you could just jump right into that one like I did and read 13. Loved it. So when I saw he had this book, I was like, oh, I got to check it out. So Kill for Me, Kill for You. This is like a modern day take or a little twist on Strangers on a Train. So Strangers on a Train is basically 2 strangers meet on a train, and they make a pact to kill for each other. And that's kind of what happened in this book. So I'm going to, you saw the title. I'm going to stop holding it and let you know a little bit more about this. So there's really 3 characters going on. Well, there's like 3 protagonists, I guess, that are going on in the story. So you have different perspectives. One is of, I want to say her name was Amanda. I'm not great at remembering characters' names. One was Amanda. And this is in the beginning, so I'm not going to be giving away too much, but she basically wants a man who did not get convicted for killing her daughter and then in many ways her husband. And she knows this guy's guilty, knows he's guilty, but he's got money. Daddy helping him out, and so she cannot, she lost everything. She lost her whole family, her whole life. And there's this guy walking free, right? That every day the detectives just can't get enough, even though the detective also feels like this guy did it, right? So there's that story going on. Then there's another story of this woman named Ruth. And Ruth is attacked one night, and that has left her completely traumatized. She should have been dead, but she survives, should have left her completely traumatized. And so that's another story that's going on. And then you have the other stories. Her name Wendy. I can't remember her name now. Another one that's at this kind of I guess it's like a victims anonymous kind of session. And so you're not quite sure where all the stories are going. And then there's the detective. So you do get the detective's point of view as well. And he is a detective also in two of these stories, right? Two of these women's lives. And so it happens. There's definitely some timing back and forth. So I felt like the pacing was really good. I didn't feel confused because it wasn't like too many characters. I can keep track of Ruth and I can keep track of, I think it was Amanda, and I can keep track of the detective. So it wasn't like too confusing. But then you have these two women. So Amanda and the other one that I can't remember her name. They talk about, they hit it off. They talk about, they both have a similar situation where they want the bad guy killed, right? They want the bad guy dead because justice isn't doing anything for them. And so they're strangers, right? They meet at a bar and start talking. Well, there's a little history there, but so they're not like total strangers at a bar, but they meet up at a bar and share their stories. And they think, how perfect would it be? You kill my guy, I kill you guy. There's zero connection to you and that guy and her and this guy, right? There's zero connection. You would never be suspected. If you can get out of there, go do as we planned kind of thing. And so that is the story. Then you have Ruth and you're like, how does she fit into all of this? But it does. It does. It all comes together at the end. This story had some twists to it. Really entertaining, kept me reading. I really do enjoy him. So I will continue to read what he puts out until he puts out something I don't like. But Steve Cavanagh, I think, is an author for me that I want to keep watching. And I did enjoy Kill for Me. Yeah, Kill for You. So from Steve Cavanagh. I did like this one. I think I gave this one 4.25 stars. I know I'm a little stingy with stars, but I gave it 4.25 stars. Because it was good, but I think for me, like a 5-star, it's got to be something like different. Not that this wasn't different, but this was like a thriller. Where I think if I'm thinking of The Mountain King, because I did give that one 5 stars, there was something about it, like either it was the way it was written, you got enough of the character. It had like a lot of things to it. So this one I felt had some twists and turns that I wasn't expecting. So totally enjoyed it. Gave it 4.25 stars. I think that's still good, but it might be one that after a while I may not think about it too much. Whereas like The Mountain King, I'm still thinking about it, So I have to make a distinction between my stars. So that is Kill for Me, Kill for You from Steve Cavanagh. The next book I listened to was We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kliewer. And this book, if you want creepy, if you don't mind creepy, this one was creepy. And this is a book that it was a weeknight. I should have gone to bed. I should have gone to bed and closed my eyes and gotten a good night's sleep. But no, I was so pulled into this story and I wanted to know how it was going to end that I kept listening to it till 1:30 in the morning. A lot of times I'll get sleepy, but no, I was like, edge of my seat, like what is happening? What is happening? So that was We Used to Live Here. So this book, it's about a young queer couple, Charlie and Eve. They flip houses. And so they've bought this it's not a new house. It's an old house that they're going to renovate and flip. But it's out in the woods. It's like out in no man's land kind of thing. And, but it's fine, right? They're living there. They're going to fix it up and flip it. And then one day, Evie's home, Charlie's not, Eve is home, Charlie's not, and Eve is someone who has trouble saying no to people, as people pleaser, that kind of thing. And so this family knocks on her door, and she opens the door, and they're like, "We used to live here. We used to live here, and we're passing through town, and I wanted to show my family where I lived. Would it be okay if we came in and saw the place?" And she's like, thinking no, right? In her mind, she's thinking no, but he's kind of a charmer. And then he says, I understand. I know this might seem weird, but we're never going to be through here anymore. And just 15 minutes, I promise, 15 minutes, we'll be out of here. And so she's like, fine. Well, one thing after another happens. This family does not leave. And there's just something odd going on. There's just like she's getting this weird vibe from this whole thing. And then her partner, Charlie, comes back and Charlie's really nice to them. Like, okay, kind of weird, but Charlie's more of an extrovert and, friendlier and all that stuff. But weird stuff keeps happening. I can't tell you more because I don't want to spoil it, but I will tell you there's some paranormal stuff going on. It's just creepy. Let me see if I have anything else here in my notes. Well, Charlie disappears for a little while. There's some ghostly apparitions. There is definitely, this is a book that is more of a psychological thriller. Like you don't know, is she seeing things? Is it really happening? Is she going crazy? Like you're just not quite sure of Eve, right? And how she's telling the story, whether she's seeing things or reading into things. And so that's what I thought was really good about the book, because it was done in a way where as the reader, you're really thinking like, is she going crazy? Or like, is this family weird? Or is she the one who's weird? And so that was what was going on. You weren't quite sure what to think about it. It's just a twisted book. It's a twisted book. I think that's where I'm going to end it. Let me see if I can get maybe one more thing to give you. I guess what I will say about the ending is that it wasn't how I thought it was going to end, and I don't know what I think of the ending. I don't think it's a bad ending, and I just don't know. Like it left me going, interesting. It still left me like that. So let me see if there's anything else I can give away without giving it away. No, I mean, as soon as these strangers come in, weird stuff starts to happen. Charlie vanishes. Eve slowly loses her grip on reality, which I said. And yeah, and you just don't know if she's imagining things. So we used to live here. If you like a psychological thriller, and one that I felt was a fast pace, like you just kept wanting to like, what is going on here? And you're okay with the creepy vibe and maybe a little ghostiness potentially, maybe not, right? You don't quite know if it's just her imagination or not. So that was a really good book. I like that one. That might be a favorite only because it just kept me. It had me. I gave that one 4.5 stars. So the next book I read is The Senator's Wife by Liv Constantine. Liv Constantine, I didn't know this, but they're sisters. I think they're sisters. It's a duo team that writes, and they wrote The Last Mrs. Parrish, I think. I have not read that book, but I've heard of that book. I've heard a lot of people read that book. I've had The Senator's Wife in my Audible for like over a year, I think. Definitely a year. And I had started it, and then, I don't know, other books in the library kind of came up, and I gave those priority. And then I'm like, I've had this book there, partially started. I want to finish it. But of course, The Senator's Wife, right after kind of the election and all those politics, I was like, do I really want to read a book about politics? The good news is it's not really about politics. It takes place in Washington, D.C., but I mean, it could have been anywhere else. So they're politicians. So, there's some kind of bribery and favorism, you owe me, or, that kind of stuff going on. But it's not really a political drama. So I was glad about that. I'm glad I read it because I really did like this one as well. So this is set in the world of DC. Sloane is a philanthropist and she's married to a senator. And she has lupus, but she's also got a really bad hip. And so she goes in to get hip surgery. And the husband hires this caretaker to take care of her. But instead of getting better, Sloane continues to get worse. And this caretaker is this young, beautiful girl. And slowly she starts to see like her husband having dinner with her. And she is like bedridden a lot of the time. She has no energy. She's starting to feel like she's starting to get paranoid that the caretaker is trying to kill her, basically. But then again, she's again not sure. This is another one of, who do you trust? Who are you trusting? Or is her husband doing weird stuff? Or because the other interesting backstory, and this is in the very beginning, the backstory of this is that they are both kind of newlyweds. Her husband, Sloane's first husband, was the love of her life, Robert. I don't know why I can remember some characters' names, but not others. Robert was like the love of her life, and he ends up being shot, I think, by her new husband, Senator's first wife. And they're kind of drawn together from, the pain of losing their spouses. It was somewhat like an accident, but anyway, so they're somewhat newly married, but they probably don't know all that much about each other. And then, this caretaker comes along. She has a surgery. She thought she was going to get better, but the lupus kicks in. And now it's this like, what is going on? She thinks that someone is trying to kill her. In the meantime, there's some other weird stuff that goes on with some attacks or almost murders, and so that is what that story is. So I can't give away more than that, other than it's really interesting to find out like what is going on. Is the caretaker bad? Is she not? What is going on? So I can't spoil any more, but I will say that it was a really good novel, kept me going, great pacing, and I'm glad I read it. I'm glad that I didn't let the title of it, The Senator's Wife, kind of make me put it off for several more months. So I did enjoy this book, and that was The Senator's Wife by Liv Constantine. I don't remember what I gave this one. I think I gave it I gave it 4 stars because... checking really quick. I get 4.25. So I gave it 4.25 stars because the beginning I felt was a little long. So I kind of wish that was edited down a little. That first beginning was that first part that I had read like a year ago. I still remembered it. So I guess that's not a bad thing. So I didn't start all over again because I remembered enough about the beginning of this story to keep going. But it took a while to get to like the hip surgery and then like all the weird stuff that starts happening. So for that reason, I would say it's a little bit of a slower start, a little bit of a slower burn, but then it kind of kicks into high gear and goes on. So that is The Senator's Wife by Liv Constantine. All right. My 4th book, this is The God of Woods by Liz Moore. And this book, I didn't ask, I should have sent her a chat, Chris, about this book, because she talked about it in her October reads. It was a book that was also on my TBR, and when Chris talked about it, I go, yeah, you know what? I have that on my TBR. I think she liked it from what I remember. She liked it, but I think we have some similar thoughts. Now I feel like I need to go watch her video on that book, but I liked the story, but my but here is it is much more character driven. So I think this is perfect for people who like to really get like a mystery that is character driven, where I'm okay with it just being very heavy plot and like, just let's just keep going. I don't really need to care. I don't need to know all the backstory of all these people. That's okay with me. If it's fast paced and it's got me hooked, I don't mind that at all. There are some people who prefer kind of some character building, a little bit more of learning about the characters and some background. And it's just a little slower paced, much more detail. Like this had a lot of detail and there's a lot of characters. And it was hard in the beginning to keep up, especially with an audiobook on, wait, who is this? Wait, who is that? And so it really did take me a while And I'm okay with that. I'll keep kind of listening and going, okay, all right, I get it, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of characters, a lot going on in this book. It was a very long book, but I liked it. I still liked it, but just a slower paced book. So you had, well, let me tell you about the book, right? You're like, well, okay, that doesn't tell me much about the book. The mystery is there's a young girl, Barbara, that goes missing from summer camp. So there is a mystery kind of throughout this whole story. But then there's another, it's very layered. There's another kind of older mystery. That same girl, Barbara, her younger brother mysteriously disappeared when he was like 10. And they never found his body. So then you have that layered on. And then you have her mother, her family is rich, comes from money, kind of a highly dysfunctional family. The mom just seems to be drinking all the time and just not there, not present in Barbara's life. And she basically lost it after her first son, Bear, or her first child, Bear, disappeared, right? So after that happened, she was never herself. And I think she just kind of drowned herself in pills and bottles. And alcohol. And so Barbara really never really had her mom, and her dad is busy. He's rich doing things. And so it's a story about this rich family who owns this camp. And then the, I guess, blue collar people in the community that work for this family or are part of the community of this family. And so one of them, it was like the caretaker's daughter or something like that. She runs the summer camp for them. And so there is a little bit of the haves and have-nots and how this rich family lives. And then you've got this other community of people around them. And so you get a lot of characters. There's like TJ, there's Alice the mom, there's the dad, there's Barbara, there's Bear, there's the sheriff, there's, it was like, there's so many people. There's Alice's sister. So there was just a lot of people in this book. But having said that, I enjoyed it and I'm glad I read it. It is probably a book that will stick with me. And that is a good thing, I think, about more character-driven books. Those are the ones that tend to stick with me, but they're not the ones that I like love reading, because I don't know, they just take a little more time. But that being said, I did like this book. I think this will be one where I will remember it for a while, because I just was so, the author did a great job of just putting me in that world, in that place with all of these people. And it was very detailed in, that you just got the sense of the type of parties they had. And you really felt for another girl that was in this. It was the roommate of Barbara. Is her name Alice? I can't know. Her name wasn't Alice. Tracy. I think her name was Tracy, right? There's a lot of names, and you kind of felt like, I remember what it was like to be 13 like her. And so anyway, all that being said, you have these two mysteries kind of intertwined with this rich family and then the townsfolk and what became of them. And then there's a detective. She is trying to prove herself as a female detective in the 70s. So this is several decades ago, when there weren't as many women detectives, probably especially in a small town like this, where she's really trying to prove that she's good at what she does. So she's got her own thing. So you really get to hear every person's backstory in this book. So having said all that, I did really like it. I'm glad I read it. And I enjoyed this one. So I believe I gave this one also 4 or 4.25 stars. And 4.25, yeah. And this book was called The God of Woods by Liz Moore. Yeah, and I like the ending too, so it's good. Part mystery, part drama. And just, I think, a good story. A good story. Well written. Okay, book 5. This one is the last book I read, and First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. My understanding is Ashley Elston used to write or started writing YA, and this is her first adult fiction. And I liked it. And 2 of my coworkers had said, have you read this book? And I'm like, no, but I have it. And they both really liked it. So it put this book on the top of my list because I'm like, I have this at home, so I better read it. And so this one is a thriller. It centers on a master manipulator. That is Evie Porter. And she's hired to investigate, high stakes crime kind of thing. She works for, let me put it this way. She's someone who doesn't truly have an identity. She isn't who she says she is. And she works for a man named Mr. Smith. She's never met Mr. Smith. She doesn't know who Mr. Smith is, but he's contacted her after seeing how good she is at trying to, steal. And she's kind of got a criminal mindset, even though she's a good person, but comes from like trailer park, trying to make ends meet and just doesn't necessarily do well, but he takes a notice of her and contacts her because she's about to go to jail, and he gets her out and then says, if you work for me, you can make some money and you can help each other out kind of thing. So it's a game of lies, a game of deception. She's given a mark and she's told to go and attach herself to this guy named Ryan. And she doesn't know why yet, and she really doesn't know what she's supposed to do. So she'll get instructions kind of as needed. And so most of this book is her as Evie Porter, but it does do some flashbacks to some other aliases she's had. And it starts to come together as to why you're getting those flashbacks and characters from 4 years ago, or like people in her life or something that she did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago, somehow all come together. This was a really, really good book. This is the last one I read. I really enjoyed this one because, lots of twists. You weren't sure what was happening. You weren't sure how she was going to get out of something. And highly recommend this. So let me see if there's anything else I want to add to this. Because this one was good. I gave that one 4.5 stars. First Lie wins. So let's see. Let's see what Storygraph says. So, I think it kind of gives away more than I need to, but this is definitely for someone who I think likes these little cat and mouse kind of thing, kind of like a heist kind of game type of thing. And it's perfect for readers who crave a fast-paced, suspenseful tale of deception and intrigue. So absolutely agree with all of that. And that was First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. So a lot of mysteries, psychological thrillers. I had a little bit of everything, right? So if you like strong character development with a little mystery, that was, God of Woods, right? And then if you like straight up thriller with a different twist to it, that's Kill for Me, Kill for You. If you like cat and mouse and kind of heist type of books, First Lie wins. And if you love creepy psychological thriller, that was We Used to Live Here. So I had a really good month reading and I enjoyed it. So next month, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I've already started. I already started 2 books. I have 2 audiobooks that I'm doing, and then I'm being bold here because those 2 are both. Well, one's kind of a romance. It's called Colton Gentry's Third Act, I believe, and the other one that I'm reading is what's the other one? Something Ellie Black, like this disappearance of Ellie Black or. The Return. Clicks the television off. Oh, see, that's how fast I read. The Return of Ellie Black is the one I'm currently reading. And then I figured I was going to try to read some actual books again. And I've had these for a while. This one is Catherine Center's The Bodyguard. So I'm going to see if I can get this read in December and add a little rom-com in there. I'm assuming that's some kind of a romance book. Catherine Center's usually are, and I do like her books. And then this one, another book of the month, and this seems like it's got some magical realism, which would be really nice for December, and so that is The Unmaking of June Marrow. So I'm going to try to read those 2 hardbacks, and then I got 2 audios going right now. And then as a slow and steady read, because I know I won't finish this in December, so maybe this is something I bring in January, I have A Gentleman in Moscow. This has been on my list to read for years and years and years. And last year I was going to read it and then I didn't. And the year before that, I just never got to it. But I ended up buying the paperback when I was in Colorado. And one of the things that I want to do is when I do go on vacation, like family trips, if I can make time to find a local bookstore, an independent bookstore, I love being in there. And so me and my daughter both love to read. And so we spent some time in a couple bookstores in Boulder, Colorado. And I figured it would be fun to buy a book from a place I visited. And then when I read it, I'll always remember that I got it. Like, I'll always remember I got this in Colorado. It'll remind me of the trip. And I think that might be kind of a cool thing to do. So I do want to read this one, but I think this is a slow and steady read. So I'll get to it. But I'm telling you now, holding me accountable to read A Gentleman in Moscow. Have you read this one? What did you think? I've heard mixed things, but I think most people like it. And I want to say it's a Cavanagh, I think. Cavanagh, right? The actor, they've made a series or movie out of this one already. But have you read any of the titles that I read? Let me know. We can chat about it below, or if you're reading something that you think I would like, let me know, because I do love mystery thrillers as well. So let me know down in the chat below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed listening to what I've been reading, and definitely let's keep the conversation going in the chat below if you love books. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you later, or chat with you later. See you. You see me, but I don't see you. So that's kind of interesting, huh? Anyway, I'll chat with you later. Bye-bye.